Ho, ho, ho. Welcome to the weekly recap for the week of December 20th, 2021. I hope you had an amazing Christmas. Today we're going to just jump. The first figure we're going to look at is SOPA. This is a supernova halter breakout. And the way I define that is a low floater that just has high volume. It does halts in the morning, then it has a pullback, and then after the pullback, it breaks out over these highs, and that's the play on this one. So I was buying right on the breakout, and I was selling into the 12s, and this ended up actually going past 13. It had a 55.1% rally. The reason I was looking at Sopa for this type of setup was because during its IPO, that is exactly what it did. During its IPO day, it went all the way to 33.36, it pulled back, and then it broke out past that level again. And then after it broke out, it actually went to the 54. So that was Sopa. I played that very well, and that was a great trade. The next stock we're going to look at is Rivn. So this play happened on Tuesday, December 21st, and this was the multi-day panic bounce. So on a large time scale here, Rivn had a big sell-off, and I'm using this peak for reference. So it had a big sell-off of 3 days, so 3 red candles in a row. It had the blow-off candle here on the daily, as you can see, and then it had the bottom set on the day after that. So after it did that, it's starting gapping up. So it was green pre-market of this day, and I was keeping my eyes peeled. The same day, Tesla was actually gapping up too, so that gave me another indicator that Rivn was going to reverse. And then I got in near the open around here once it started curling. I got in, and then the volume was the indicator of it starting to bounce and continuing to bounce. My target was set in the 97s, just because I know that 100 is a key psychological and also previous support level that has become resistance. I don't want to put my targets at 100 because I don't know if it'll get past that, so I put them below that. So I was exiting to 97, and overall it was a very good trade. I did not know it would spike this quickly. I thought it would take a longer time, but if I knew it was going to spike so quickly, I would have gone calls on this play. I just wasn't sure of it. The play isn't 100% perfect. It's a great setup, but it's not perfect. But overall, I'm very happy with how it turned out. The next stock we're going to look at is ALLK. So this is one of my top setups. It is the oversold dump setup. Pretty much a stock that has very bad news. It gaps down in pre-market over 77%, and then starts bouncing later on in pre-market, and then at the open it has a massive squeeze, massive bounce. That is a dead cat bounce. So I go long in pre-market, and hopefully it has this massive bounce, and I can make a lot of money off that. So on this stock, I was sizing pretty heavily actually, and right after it formed this low, I was getting in the mid tens right here, and it ended up bouncing to 1277 in pre-market. The actual peg from top here to bottom is 88.8%. and the total bounce is 46.1%. So from here to here, because the rest of the day it didn't bounce, it just faded. On these setups, I usually want the bounce to be 80, 90%, even 100%. So my target was set in the 15s and the 16s because I thought it would bounce that high because setups like this have done that in the past few years. They had the gap down, pre-market low bounce, and then once the market opened, they had a massive squeeze to pretty crazy targets if you're just looking at where the bottom was. If you're looking at the daily chart, what you would notice is that even though 16 seems aggressive based on 100% bounce on this daily chart, the 16 price target isn't super aggressive. It's substantial. It still looks like a bounce, but it seems reasonable. If you're just looking at the intraday, you could assume that, oh my god, that's like such a crazy target. Why would you think that? Now, the reason is it's just because it's so damn oversold. But this one did not work out. So originally I had my stops at a pre-market low day, but once the market opened, and it didn't give me that squeezing bounce action. It didn't give me that curling action. It just kind of started to fade. Around 11 a.m., that's when I raised my stop to the market open low day. So around 980, and I ended up getting stopped out shortly after that. So very surprising that it didn't work. I'm going to size down next time the setup occurs. Sometimes even what looks like a perfect setup, it's not going to do what you think it'll do. It's not going to do what the statistics and data tell you it's going to do. So that's why stops are so important. The next stock we're going to look at, this happened on the same day. So this is Chinese scam pump and dump. So this was the big dump right here. And what I was looking for was the volume spikes right here. And then what I was looking for was the cross of this trend line right here. So after a cross, after the volume spikes ran, now I'm looking for those green candles. And then once I see one green candle form, I'm starting to get in. So I was in here around the 14 area. That's where I was buying, and then I was selling here into the 16. So great bounce. It actually went on to bounce way more. It went up. It went on to bounce to the 20s, so it actually went red green at the end of the day, which is so crazy. Did not expect it to bounce that much. The total panic on JWL was 40.8%, and the bounce on it was 69.4. So JWEL actually turned into an amazing bounce short opportunity as well. So on this wick, I started short, but I ended up getting squeezed out. And then again, I took another shot here, but this actually squeezed me out also. So my stop was set at red green. It went right through red green, then slammed back down, and that stopped me out. But after that, the bounce short actually did work out. This would have been my target right here to get in around here and then get out right here. I just wasn't in it. It saw me out too many times. I moved on. But it would have worked out if you played the bounce short. Now, similar play was HUDI. So this was also a Chinese scam pump and dump. And during this day, I had this big sell off here. It didn't sell off enough for it to be supernova halter panic dip buy, but it did end up having this nice bounce, which would have been an awesome bounce short. So for this one, I was getting in right here and using the high here as my stop. And then just because JWL moved so much, just because it had such a big
sell off after its bounce. I got a little too aggressive. I held on for longer than my target. Met my target here in the 28s, but I wanted the mid 27s. It didn't reach that. Instead, it just rallied up and then squeezed me out. So my stop here was in the 32s, and I got filled in the 34s because this stock is more illiquid. So I got smoked. Um, I just got way too aggressive. I gotta just take the targets as they come and not try to want more out of that. Okay, final stock of the week we're gonna look at is AMC. So AMC had this massive bounce of 50% or so. 32 right here is a resistance level. It has tested that many times before. So that was a big resistance. And the first red day there, that was the indicator getting into the short position. I actually played the puts, but playing the short was possible here too. So this is the first red day. The stock was red, and VWAP was just above here. So it was under VWAP, it was red. I was gaining on the mounts, and it had a nice pull in the afternoon. I swung my puts overnight, thinking that it was going to gap down pre-market and I can get out the open. It wasn't gapping down, but my plan was to get out at the open, so I got out at the open, and literally right after I got out, it did the move I wanted to do. So it had this massive panic to under 27. That's what I wanted. I wasn't in it, so I missed out on that. Next time I'll probably just short it, so I don't have to worry about time decay on the options. And this was a great setup. Worked out. I had an execution issue on it, but this was a great setup. So that was the last setup of the week. That wraps up weekly recap. I'll see y'all in the new year next week.